OVFL podcast. Today we're joined with President and Head Coach of the varsity Essex Ravens. He's been a head coach for the Team Ontario teams. He also went down with Team Canada and beat USA recently. Mr. Glen Mills, thank you so much for joining us today, Coach.
How are you doing? How are you today, Nate?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us here today on the show. And let's jump right into it. So just a couple weeks ago really, you went down with Team Canada and you guys played a full game there and came home with a victory and a gold medal for us Canadians against the USA. Give us a little bit of insight. What was that like as a team?
You know what? It was a tremendous accomplishment. You know, when we get kids from all over, from pretty much every province throughout Canada, and you got to kind of assemble these guys. The first time I met most of them, except for the kids that were on Team Ontario, was a week prior to the game, and we rolled into Texas, and it was great. The staff was from pretty much every province of Canada, so it was the fact that we gelled and we were able to put together a pretty solid team, and I think we played pretty well considering all the obstacles that we faced. We didn't get our equipment, believe it or not, until the Thursday morning. We were playing on Friday night, and we didn't have our equipment get cleared through customs until Thursday morning. So we actually practiced all week without equipment and things like that. So the kids handled it extremely well, and like I said, a great group of young men. There'll be some definite kids that you will hear about, that played on that team. There's some tremendous talent that we had. Absolutely.
What do you think a game like that and a performance like that from the whole team, what do you think that says about Canadian football in general? Do you think that does send some waves through the American channels? Do you think coaches know about that? They hear about it and kind of start looking north of the border a little more?
You know what? Absolutely. I don't think just numbers-wise that we can compete just depth-wise with the United States, obviously, right? But I think if you take our top 100 players in Canada, I think we can match up with the United States or any other country out there if you just take our top 100 players. Now, there's just so many more kids playing in the United States, obviously, that the level of competition is going to drop off drastically, right? But if you just take the top players, I think we've proved that we can compete with anybody out there, and we're turning some heads, and there was a lot of talk, and we just didn't beat them. We physically dominated them, and we not only on the field but on the scoreboard, we beat them pretty good.
Absolutely. I got to watch that game, and it was awesome to see. It brings a smile to your face, and you're seeing these guys with all these big fancy Division I names next to them under that commitment column, and here we are putting up points on them, breaking off big runs, and dominating the trenches. So it was awesome to see. All right, Coach. So, what about Team Ontario? What has that experience kind of been like for you? How's that helped with your Essex Ravens prep, with all this stuff? What has Team Ontario been like for you, Coach Mills?
You know what? I took it over 2 years ago, and we got a bronze medal last 2 years ago. We were a minute away from going to the gold medal game. And, for me as a head coach, I wanted to give myself an opportunity to see if we could get the championship back in Ontario. And, with 2 years after I took it over the first year, then last year we won the national championship. We got it back in Ontario for the first time in 10 years. I think the level of play and the exposure and opportunity that kids get by playing Team Ontario in the Canada Cup is fantastic. Every school throughout the CIS is at the tournament, and there's a recruiting fair that goes on. So, and one big, large place like that, the kids get an opportunity to see every university out there and speak to every university out there, and they get to play in front of every university out there, which I think is a fantastic opportunity. And they get to play against the elite kids in every other province at their age group, which, again, I think is a fantastic opportunity. It just develops football all the way around, and anytime we can do that, I think it's a great thing.
Okay. So with you on that staff, you're working hand in hand with a whole bunch of CIS guys, a whole bunch of OUA coaches in particular, being with Team Ontario. What do you think the OVFL does as a developmental league for these coaches? Do they look to the OVFL? Are they really, really, really paying attention to what these kids are doing, how they're growing? How important is the OVFL?
You know what? I think the OVFL is a tremendous tool for the OUA and the CIS, because you would have to legitimately probably go to 40 or 50 high school games to see the amount of talent that you could probably see by taking in five OVFL games. If you just went to 5 varsity OVFL games, you would take in half of the province. and you would see all the elite kids from those areas, right? And if you were to do that in high school, it would be impossible to get around to see all those kids. So I think it's a tremendous tool to evaluate kids. I think it's a tremendous tool to get kids better. It's a pleasure working with the OUA guys that I get an opportunity to work with. When you can put that type of knowledge and that type of effort and attitude, like these guys are relentless. The guys that I work with, Chris Patoya, Rob Underhill, Bill Brown, like they're fantastic to work with. They work incredibly hard. They're always well prepared. They coach the kids up on every down, which I think is important. And anytime kids get those opportunities, they have no choice but to get better. And for me, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know you've had a couple of your Essex Ravens be on those Team Ontario teams. So let's get right into it then. What is the state of the Raven? We're looking at the Essex Ravens this week. What's going on? What's the team's going to look like? Bantam, JV, varsity? What are we looking forward to?
You know what? We're always strong. We work incredibly hard in the off season. We were right there last year. We had two teams in the championship, and both teams come up on the short end. The varsity team lost in the last play of the game with no time left on the clock, and varsity will be very, very good again. Our Bantam team is loaded and stacked again. We did get a new head coach at the JV level who's working extremely hard, Adam Morrison. And I tell you, he's recruiting his butt off, and he's going to probably have 75 kids in camp, and I think you'll see a drastic improvement with that team. So overall, we're in good shape. We just, we don't ever, rebuild. We simply reload, and we just get after guys, and we start December 1st in our off-season program, and I think that's what makes us tremendously successful. Is we do an extensive off-season program between core training, plyometrics, the weight room, flexibility. We run from now till March break, and then we give the kids a March break off, and then we come back and get to positional stuff, and then we break outside August 20th, which is, again, an extensive off-season program that keeps us at the top of the OVFL, and that's where we want to be all the time. We're about giving kids opportunities, and I think, we put 24 kids at the next level just last year alone. So I think we're doing great things, and I think we're going to continue to do great things.
Wow, that's a pretty good stat there to have, 24 in a year. That's not too shabby. And I mean, of course, you guys are always working hard. You guys are always reloading. That's why, being a London Falcon, a London Junior Mustang myself, we know how that rivalry always went. The battling you guys. So with the new coach of the JV ranks, what is that team going to look like? Is it going to be a little bit tougher for him to transition, or do you think is there enough coaches sticking around that's going to be less of a problem with the transition?
I think it's going to. I think there's a little bit new expectation in regards to getting back to doing what we do well, and that's being physical, and that's taking care of our business, and that's just being a good, solid football team. And I think we got away from that a little bit last year. I think we let the edge down a little bit, and I think we let the kids kind of, I don't want to say have too much control, but I think we let the kids get away with a little bit too much stuff, and it was a little lax at times. And I just think that with Adam coming in, Adam's a former Raven guy from years back. He coached on our varsity staff the last couple of years. He's really energetic. He just gets after guys. He's passionate about what he does, and I think that attitude and passion will run off on the kids. And I'll tell you, I think, I wouldn't be surprised if they're right there competing for a JVOV championship just by how hard he's working right now. Like, this guy is a relentless worker, and it's really exciting to watch. Okay,
absolutely. That's a good thing to have going for him then. So that varsity team, I mean, when I think of Essex Ravens football, I think blue collar. I think, hey, I got a fullback, I got a tailback. I'm putting them both in the same hole. We're going to take 4 yards from you with your lunch money. So how does that team bounce back from such a hard loss in the championship in that varsity team? Are there a lot of guys coming back with some good leadership to kind of help them take the next step and make sure that when that final whistle blows, you're on the other side of the score?
You know what? We had a big team. We had 60 players on that team, 62 players. We graduated, I think, around 20. So we got a good nucleus back and a good core back. We got a great group of juniors moving up. Without question, in my coaching career, that was probably the most difficult loss that I witnessed. I mean, those kids, it was just a heartbreaking loss, losing the last play of the game with no time left on the clock on a single point. Was just it was heartbreaking for the kids, and I felt extremely bad for him. It was, but you know what? It's always a learning lesson. It's always something that that we're going to use as motivation to get better and just work harder. We're going to be the same type of football team. We're going to be a physical football team. We're going to be a team that if we have to physically beat you up, we will. If we want to, run and gun a little bit, we can do that as well. I think we've shown over the last several years that we can do a lot of different things, and it's going to be the same type of atmosphere, the same type of attitude. I think the one thing we're just going to continue to work hard because that's something that we just believe that has to be done.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much. Last thing, I guess, then. For the JV team, we'll start with, who are the guys to watch? I mean, I know it's going to be tough for you. It's hard to pinpoint, but are there a couple of guys, a handful of guys that you know are ready to make a splash, maybe push for an all-star nod, and the guys that will have your phone ringing all day for OUA coaches calling?
You know what? They have a bunch of them. There's going to be some solid guys on the O-line. Luka Malarnovic. There's going to be, who else? There Kyle Manson. There's going to be a running back that's real solid. This Savoni who played in the International Bowl. Brandon Tatsu is a kid who's moving up. That's going to make, I think, a tremendous splash. He'll be a fantastic football player. There's a young man, Tyler Johnson, who's a safety that played in the International Bowl as a grade 9. And I tell you, this kid's going to be lights out. He could probably come up and challenge for a varsity spot. And he's only a grade 9 kid. So he's going to make a splash. And there's I'm trying to think who else is back there that's going to be solid. There's just some solid kids that he's recruited. We have a couple of linemen. They have one young man who's in grade 9. He's 14. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. And he moves extremely well. Okay. So they're going to have some kids that will do some great things.
All right. And that varsity team of yours, we got some guys. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard to find them on the stat sheets from last year. But what about some guys that maybe we didn't hear too much about that are ready to make that push in their second or first year of varsity?
You know what? We expect big things out of Brandon Speller. He was an all-star last year that moved up. That's moving up. He's a wide receiver / tight end, and he was the most valuable player in the International Bowl Series for Team Ontario. We're expecting big things from him. Another young man you'll probably hear a lot about is Kyle Jennings and C.J. Church. They're both outstanding offensive linemen that are moving up. C.J.'s been on the International Bowl the last 2 years and is a big player for those guys. Anthony Bontorn, I think you'll hear, will again dominate the offensive side of the ball at quarterback. Running back, we lose Eli, but we have pretty much everyone else back, so we're very, very strong at running back. Pickens, I think, will be our big gun for us. He's a junior kid that led the OVFL in rushing. He'll probably lead the varsity team as well in rushing. Trying to think who else is wide receiver. We have a ton of guys. Michael Emanuel, that's going to expect big things from. Just a good, solid group of kids. Defensive back-wise, we're loaded as well. So, I think you'll see a lot of big things coming down the road.
All right, sounds good. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today on the OVFL podcast. Today, guys, we've been watching the State of the Ravens with Coach Glen Mills. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.